Hello, this is Randy. I wanted to touch base with you and talk just a little bit more about fishing. I am not a fishing fanatic any longer. Uh, my dad wore me out. I've had a chance from the time I was a teenager on to work on fishing boats. I worked on a boat out of San Diego that was an Italian sport fisher, 53-foot long. I was, for all intents and purposes, I guess their first mate. My job was to take the boat out, sleep while they were fishing, and then bring it back in. Did pretty good at navigating by radar and charts back in the day. Uh, Worked on some bigger boats, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the fishing we did in off of British Columbia in the Inside Passage, and also in Alaska. Some of you have been fishing probably on a lake or a stream and use little tiny hooks. The hooks we were going after, salmon, halibut, cod, dogfish, were as big as from the tip of my finger down to my thumb, and kind of like that. I've got big hands. When we were fishing for albacore off of the coast of California and farther south, we would file the barb off of the hook and we would polish that hook so it just shined. We would throw that in with a weight. It was a small fish. Because there was no barb on it, we would yank them in at a pole. It was just a piece of bamboo with some fishing line on it, a weight, and a shiny hook. Or the albacore, which is a big tuna, that's what they call prime white tuna. They would hit the deck, and hitting the deck would make their mouth open, and the hook would come out because there was no barb to keep it in. And we'd throw that hook right back in. It sounds crazy, but I have done that on a boat where literally we were walking on the sides of the boat above fish, and we had already filled our hold with fish that was refrigerated. And then we had to keep the rest of the fish cool by spraying them down constantly with cold seawater, trying to get them back to port. And then they'd take the temperature, make sure they were safe to can, and we'd unload them, and then they would take them on. But I literally, the whole boat. And luckily, the boat we went out on, it was called the Grand Mac. It was a 32-foot trawler, and it had teak decks and a step up, and then around the sides it had like a 2-foot, maybe 2.5-foot sidewall, and that was to protect you from, on a slippery deck, slipping out underneath the deck if you were in rough seas. We were in rough seas on this boat quite a bit. Might have been only 32 foot long, but it was not unusual for us to go 300 or 400 miles to find fish. And that boat could run forever because it just had a small diesel engine. It didn't go very fast. I think the fastest it would go was probably 8 or 9 knots, nautical miles, so maybe 12 miles an hour. But up in Alaska and Canada, we use those same kind of hooks, and that's what we would catch our halibut on, what we would catch our salmon on. But with the salmon, we would troll for them, and we used a big flasher. The flasher was probably 18 inches long and maybe 4 inches across, and it had a swivel on each end so that when it would be towed, it would turn and flash in the light. And that would attract the salmon. So they would see that, thinking it's a fish. And the hook had a piece of fish on it, and then they would strike the hook. We would pull those in. There was a lot of fun catching salmon. The real big ones you see at the end of the season when they're set to go and lay their eggs and have bred, that's bear food. They don't taste good at that point. We never went fishing for them at that point. It was a fun experience. We had a great time. One of the things that was interesting to me is as we were fishing, whether it was in Mexico or in Canada, Alaska, if someone was fishing for someone else, they would want to trade for some other kind of food. They would want to trade. For instance, let's say we had a whole bunch of salmon and they had crab. They would want to trade crab for salmon because they got tired of eating crab. They would catch some crab or some salmon maybe in their nets. Didn't happen very often. When we were in Mexico, shrimp fishermen would trade us fish for our grouper or salmon for our grouper. It was just a lot of fun. I remember those days fondly, but I was not able to take my son to give him those same experiences. One, I didn't ever have the time off my dad did as a university professor, and two, I just never, frankly, could afford the boats that he did. Uh, I made other choices. I hope I haven't bored you too much with that story about fishing in Alaska and Mexico. It was fun. It was exciting. If you have never been deep sea fishing, go. It's fun. It's exciting. It's interesting. If you have to go on what they call a party boat, where there's maybe 50 or 60 of you throwing lines off the side of a boat, do that. That's better than not going at all. My son has tried that and had fun. I think we got him on a smaller boat where there were 6 or 8 fishermen once, and that was about as small as we could go. The boat I used to work on used to have 2 or 3 fishermen at a time on it. They were paying an awful lot of money in those dollars. I remember being shocked. Now I'm aging myself, but this is in the 70s, and I remember being shocked that they were paying well over $100 an hour for us to run the boat, take them out fishing and whatever. This is before the gas crisis, so diesel fuel was very inexpensive. I was just shocked, and we would feed them, treat them like kings. As soon as they got on board the boat, some of them would start drinking. I think if I had not been born in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I don't think I would drink anyway, because of seeing people get drunk and how silly they would become when they got drunk. I got tipped very well. As I said, I didn't help with the fishing, but I would take the boat out. I would welcome them to the ship while the crew is sleeping. Then I would take it out and with the help of someone, go get bait. We'd fuel up and we were gone. That boat would get us out to the fishing area before anyone. We would catch fish. As soon as we caught enough fish, we would come back. Again, we beat everybody. The boat I worked on at one point held the record for towing the most water skiers. You won't believe how many. It was 60 water skiers. And that was in the Guinness Book of World Records at one point. May still be, I don't know. But it was a pretty incredible experience. It had a tuna tower on it. It was 60 feet above the water. I foolishly dived off it more than once and into the ocean. Had a lot of fun experiences on that boat, and I'm grateful that the captain trusted me, a young man, and my father, to do some work with him. I learned a lot, had some amazing experience, met some amazing people, which I may talk about here later. But I want you to know that if you get a chance to go sport fishing, you should do it. Like I say, my wife went once, never needs to go again because she caught so many big fish. She says there's no way it's going to ever be that good again. But some people, like my dad, they get addicted to fishing. I am addicted to the water. I love to water ski. I love to ride wave runners and jet skis, drive ski boats. I love water, but fishing, it's okay. I wasn't as addicted to it as my father. So again, thank you for joining me for Brain Break with Randy. I hope you enjoy these breaks, and I hope you will like and subscribe. Please tell your family about us too. Hope you're having a great day. Bye now.